Street Champs, come get put on. Today I'm in here with Regina, Maestri, City Councilwoman for District 1. How you doing tonight, Regina?
I'm doing great, Deryk, and yourself?
I'm doing really, really well. I'm really excited for this conversation. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome. Thanks for putting out the invite for city leadership to come and visit with you as a new candidate for mayor for Pueblo. You know, I'm excited because you're engaging a generation that isn't really involved in politics, and I totally get it. You know, it was 2012 before I became really involved in politics, and I was in my late 40s. And so I'm not a politician. I always say I'm not a politician, but, you know, unfortunately, that title comes with once you're elected. And so, you know, a couple of years ago, I came home from working on the road, and I was hearing a lot of negative things about Pueblo. We were national for, you know, a highest crime rate and some of the things that were going on. And I would say, not my Pueblo. That's not my Pueblo. And then I came home and I started to see some things that were bothersome to me. You know, we're a good, diverse community of many different cultures. I've always thought everybody got along for years. You know, I've been here for 32 years. I raised my family here. And so I have little grandchildren now. And I want to see them have the same love for their city that their father did while raising him. Mm-hmm. You know, he decided to have his career here, stay here, go to college here, stay here, and give back to the community. And so when I saw that there were some things that were going wrong, I thought, well, heck, I'm going to step up. I want to do something. And so I really admire you for having the courage to step up and say, hey, I want to do something different, and especially engaging your generation.
Yeah, thank you. I think I know what's going to win me the mayoral race is the people watching this, and I think being more transparent with the people that actually are willing to learn, because not everyone is. They need that little push. But, you know, we put out some different kind of content on this channel. We don't stick to one thing. So yeah, I know I didn't acquire the political audience, but now I know that the people that are already here can appreciate, you know, this effort.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I don't think it's really the political audience that you're looking for. It's the community. The community. This is we the people. This community owns this town. Every member of this community has skin in the game.
Yeah.
I don't own it. The mayor doesn't own it. We the people do. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what people don't understand, how many rights we do have and how much say we have in what goes on here. And so I encourage all people that feel if they can do something different, then they should stand up. You know, politicians make it a career. People come in as politicians. You know, something interesting about myself, I'm a mom. I'm a grandma. I was on the road. I had lost track with a lot of the people that I knew on a daily basis because I'm out working. And I ran against a 16-year incumbent. I think he had 14 years in altogether. And nobody thought I was going to win. They just she's not going to win. Nobody knows her. And I won. And
how many votes did you get?
I got 2,157 votes.
Because you have to live in the district to vote in the district, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And so I got 2,157 votes. And he got 2,000. I think I was 127 votes against him. And, you know, the first call, I was 12 votes behind him. The first time they called, I was 12 votes behind him. And, you know, at that point, I said to myself, hey, if this is good as it gets, I've done great considering where I come from. The second call, I was 1 vote ahead of him. The third call, just before I went to bed at night, we went to bed tied.
Oh, wow.
It was the next day where I started to come ahead of him in the count. And so, ta-da, here I am.
What was his name?
His name was Bob Schilling. That's okay.
That's funny. Bob Schilling?
Bob Schilling, yes. And he was, he occupied that seat for, I think 8 years, and then he had a break, and then he was up to another 4 years, and then he had a couple extra years in there, and he was going to do one more run. And here I am.
Wow. So, this isn't really like an interview type thing, but I guess I kind of want to get to know you before we talk about like really anything.
Yeah, I think that, rather than have preconceived notions or a perspective, somebody else's perspective of me, it's best that you and I get to know each other.
Definitely. Yeah, we do a lot of interviews on this platform. So
so I'm good. Yeah. Ask me the questions.
Yeah, definitely. How old's your son?
My son's 38.
38.
Mm-hmm. He's 38 years old. I brought him here when he was 5. And so he's pretty much gone to school here. He started out at Vineland and then went to Heritage and then went to Roncalli and then went to South. But he graduated his senior year from Hollister High in Hollister, California, where his father's from, adjoining community. I came from Gilroy, California. His father was from Hollister, and his father and I had divorced when he was 14, and he wanted to go and spend time with his dad. And so, we try to get along, and we have gotten along, my ex-husband and I, his father. In fact, he's retired now, and he's come back to Pueblo, and it's better for family, the kids, the celebrations, for everyone to get along and be respectful of one another and lift each other up. My grandkids, I tease them all the time. They go, Papa John, and I go, isn't that the name of a pizza? And they go, Grandma, he's not a pizza, he's our Papa.
That's your ex-husband's name?
Yes, his name is John. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, they're like, Papa John, and I go, you mean the pizza? And they're like, Grandma, it's cute.
Yeah, so you guys have a pretty good relationship?
Oh, we have a great relationship.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we do. In fact, he works for my current relationship. They work together. We have family events, everything. Mm-hmm. He's really, he's a handyman, do it all. He'll come over and fix things at my house. I help him out, and because it shows it's positive relationships for my grandchildren to see, for my family to see, because we have way too much dysfunction in this world. And we're not perfect, but I want to try to do better, because those little kids are important. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be something other than spoiled. A lot of times we spoil our kids because we're trying to make up for our shortcomings, and then that doesn't play out well.
Yeah, definitely. They say half of all marriages end in divorce now.
I don't know if that's the statistic, but I've had my fair share.
we got a guy that'll Google it over here. Chauncey, would you please Google that? I'm serious. He's
I got you.
I said I wouldn't make him do anything. I was like literally 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the comments. Let's see what they got a cat in the comments. So, I guess that's a pretty good introduction to you. I'm sure as we speak more, we'll get deeper into that. But
well, a couple of other things just about me as a person. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of a hippie, an old hippie, or granola, and I ride a motorcycle. A lot of people don't know that either. That's why I don't just wear a Harley Davidson shirt. I actually own a couple of Harley Davidsons, and I've ridden through Canada. I've ridden all over the United States. And it's one of my favorite pastimes. And so that's another thing. I've lived in Europe. I've had the opportunity to live in Europe. It was about a year. And then with working, I've worked from coast to coast. And the reason I tell you that is because it's given me the opportunity to see what goes on in other communities, in other places where the government runs differently than the government runs here. You know, have you ever been abroad?
Yes.
And does it make you uncomfortable when you go and you see the police all militaried up, sitting on corners with, you know, assault rifles or in tanks? Have you seen that before?
No, I've never seen that.
Yeah. And, you know, and we're talking like, you know, when I was in Greece, different parts of Europe, and especially Mexico, you know, we don't have that here. So it's kind of uncomfortable when you see somebody geared up military style, but they're actually the police.
Is that something that you would maybe want to see here one day?
I would never want to see it here. And one of the reasons why I got involved is because we seem to be going in a direction. There's a lot of polarization, and we seem to be going in a direction to where is there going to be a breaking point? And that's what happens. You get to the point where nobody's getting along and there's civil unrest. And I would never want to see. We've been fortunate as Americans in our generations. We've never seen war here on our motherland. And I wouldn't want to. There's nothing that this walls here in this living room is going to protect us from if we go to that. And so, no, I wouldn't want to see that.
Yeah, I was talking about more of the police kind of presence. I think, I mean, I would like to see kind of a more police presence at night, like in the nightlife, like here in Pueblo. I think the nightlife here is kind of could go wrong really fast. So I think like in Colorado Springs, they'll have just police there as deterrents. They'll have them just hanging out outside at 2 a.m, just so people don't do anything wrong.
Yeah, we're short on law enforcement here in Pueblo. Not only just with the police department, but with the sheriff's department. We are so behind. Nobody wants to be in the profession anymore. That's one of the big things.
Why?
State legislation has come in, and the state legislators actually, they get voted in, but they can change laws without a vote of the people. And so what they've done is they've reduced a lot of the charges and sentencing, and they've also put laws into place that make it scary for an officer to try to do their job. So when somebody's resisting arrest, and this is probably close to me than the average person, because my child is he's my child, but he's a grown adult man, you know, has served and protect this community for almost 15 years now. And everybody thinks that they think what the officer should do, and they're not in it. And are there bad cops out there? Yes. But not the majority. And all cops are being punished for a few bad cops. And so officers don't even want to put themselves in that position anymore. Every resisting arrest that have led to really bad outcomes lately have been a reflection of the police. Oh, well, he's not thinking, or he's overthinking, or he's using too much force. Dude, when you're in the middle of a scuffle for your life, What are you thinking? I'm going to survive it, right?
I would-
That's what I'm thinking.
I would use like non-lethal ways first.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't really try to fight. I think when the police is fighting, like ego gets in there.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has that. Yeah, I mean they have non-lethal choices for a reason. Their safety belt has a few options on there.
They do. As you're continuing to deal with somebody who is maybe as strong as you or stronger than you or on something, you know, I just kind of hope that we can have that nobody gets hurt, but that's not always the situation. And I don't know if ego is necessarily about, you know, I want to go home tonight. I want to go home to my family. I want to survive this moment. And, you know, even in their training, the new training that's come out doesn't allow them to really get hold of the situation. And so we're hurting.
Yeah.
And it's affecting us. It's affecting our community.
Yeah. Wouldn't you say that the criminals and the police, repeat criminals, they'll start to know who's who.
Yeah.
So that, you know, they're like, oh man, you know, it's this person again.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would kind of adds to the why they would go harder on them or why they would treat them worse. You know, when I don't know if that's true or not, but I think.
Well, you know what? I think they're smarter than ever, criminals, because they know they can do things now. They know they can walk into King Soopers and walk out with a shopping cart full of groceries and nobody's going to do anything about it.
How do we stop it?
We go back to allowing law and order to be what it was. Now, are there extreme cases? Over the years, have people been unjustly prosecuted? Yeah, they have. And, but that doesn't you can't take all of that away, because now look at what we have. We have car theft. They're not being prosecuted. They're stealing cars left and right. We're the second, we're the highest car theft in the nation. Second state with the highest car theft in the nation. And it's a lot. Their ticket. Oh, here, let me give you a ticket. Oh, you stole that car? Let me give you a ticket.
What's the answer?
To return back to the laws.
Just putting them in jail?
To being able to have charges and they go through the process. Because, you know, once you touch the stove hot and it's either hot enough and you stop touching it. That's kind of like the consequence, right, for touching the stove. Or you continue to touch the stove, and at that point it's your choice. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of. I don't think it's so cut and dry with the criminals though either. I think those criminals are people too. Maybe they're just kind of, not everyone is, you know, in the same situation. Some people are bad just to be bad. But you know, some people are I mean, they're stealing cars to survive. They're stealing those groceries to survive. You know, the prior example.
Well, you know, we have 8 food banks here. Why are you stealing groceries? They
don't have phones to like check it out and like Google.
Where are they taking well, but it's everywhere in the city. You know that there's food banks, social media, and I'm going to tell you they have a lot more phones because you can get free phones. You can get free phones through some nonprofits. They give people who can't afford phones free phones. And so you will see that a lot of this isn't done from people who are homeless or without. When they catch them, they're catching them in their, you know, when they finally catch them and they're doing something about it because they have stolen over a certain amount of money, they're doing it. They're going to their homes and getting it. They're not going out to like an encampment out behind 29th Street and finding large quantities of stolen merchandise. And so those who are indigent, we have a plethora of food banks.
What's indigent?
Without money. That's the term for someone who doesn't have the resources to buy things.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. You had great points, but I mean, I've personally never been homeless. I've spoken to a few. I would like to get them on video speaking to these homeless people and try to get them help. It's kind of a tough thing to navigate, but the people that I have reached out to, it's just I think we're giving them too much like pressure. We have to. Oh, you have to find it. You have to go to it, and you have to get it. We have to kind of meet them in the middle.
Well, they do have mobile food banks that go around certain areas of town, and they target areas where there's more of a need for it. An interesting person to talk to his name is Kevin Howard, and he's with Pueblo United. And Kevin is a former convict, prisoner. He's served several sentences, and he's even upset. He's like, well, wait a second. I had to serve my time for all the things I did because he's being affected by the criminals in his neighborhood. They're breaking into his cars. The thing about what's really great about Kevin is he is a giver. He gives back to the community. Him and his organization give back to the community, and they find resources and they find money, and they do a lot for this community without coming to the city of Pueblo and asking for money. How's that? Because it's possible. It's possible when you are really good at what you do, and when you give back to the community before you get a paycheck. People are helping you. A lot of the nonprofits here go for a paycheck first. They make sure they're all paid.
Yeah, that's true.
And then whatever's left over, they give to whatever service they're offering. And so that's why I like Crazy Faith Ministries. I don't know if you're familiar with Crazy Faith. They're the ones that ran the warming shelter. The city did help them out with funds, but they used those funds towards their mission, and that was to keep people warm in a warming shelter before they ever cut a paycheck for themselves. Not only that, they took some of those people, they got transportation for them to get back to where they came from because they wanted to go home, because there's a lot of people that come here and then they kind of get stuck here. They help people get into drug rehabilitation with their own funds, their own private funds. They're another organization that really, truly is giving to the community and then they have private donors too. And what I've learned through this whole process is private donors, there are a lot of them out there, and they will fund you, but they want to make sure that what money you're getting, you're actually giving back and doing, the right thing to help people. And so when you're elected, because that's what you have to say, when you're elected, Deryk, you always say, when I'm elected. You never say, well, if I win. No, when you're elected, you're going to learn a lot of things that you never even thought before, because that's what it did for me.
Wow. Let's see what the chat's saying.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Could you scroll up at least? Sorry to ask you so many things. Is it not doing it? All right, we'll start. Go up like 3 more and we'll start. Right there. Getting to the food. Oh, I won't start on a compliment. That's Getting food banks, though. That's a great point. Imagine giving social media as an example to someone stating may not have a phone. Food banks are poorly advertised. Not enough food. Close early. I've been to many and volunteered at some, and it's not as cut and dry as you make it seem.
Well, that's good to know because we invest a lot in food banks. And so if the community doesn't feel like they're being served, that's when you reach out to city council, your city council members, and saying, hey, such and such food bank isn't open. They say they're going to be open and they're not open. Because when we give money, we can say, okay, this is what we've heard. And maybe we may not want to give money to a certain food bank because they aren't properly serving the community. And so my number is 719-504-8888. And let me tell you, I take phone calls from my constituents. I do have a day job. I can't always answer right away, but I will call you back. And I'd like to know what's going on out there, especially in the community of the nonprofits, if they're helping you or not. Mm-hmm. And just give me a call, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. I don't know if I would have recommended you putting your phone number out on here.
Well, it's public knowledge anyways. It is on the city council website.
Oh, nice. Perfect.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, hey, Deryk, that's part of the game, so get used to it.
I know, but
when you get elected.
That's also part of the YouTube game. Is this video can be seen in like other countries,
Mm-hmm.
so you might get,
yeah, it's a public phone number.
Okay.
It's a public phone number.
Okay.
That's what we have to do as.
Oh, so you have a public phone. You have two phones.
I have one phone with two lines.
Oh, wow.
And I really, I don't know what's wrong with my Apple phone or something, so I really don't even know who's calling on what line. So, but I answer because that's what I was elected to do, was to serve my community.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, we'll keep going. Transportation ride. Med ride is only used for medical transport, and not everyone is aware of Golden Gate unless they've been set up before, really. It's not as accessible as she's making it seem. Even those transportation companies only go back and forth to appointments. If they find out you're using it for something else, they cut you off. It's frowny face.
Mm-hmm.
We go down.
And on top of that, it's hard to even get them there in a appropriate time manner.
The title means more than the output to many people. I don't know what that means. Yes. Neat.
Okay.
Jesus.
Scroll down.
All right. I feel like social work is dangerous because, unlike other jobs, people focus on being the best at what they do. In peace work, most people run off their ego, and it distorts their ability to try. Maybe we should start where we are right now, because low-key, these are... I'm like, what were we talking about? But I think we're talking about the police thing. You could just go to the bottom, actually. I'm sorry. Sorry, Chauncey. Shout out Chauncey in the back.
Okay. You see that one?
How would you stop Denver from busing homeless people to Pueblo?
It would be nice to be able to call up there and say, hey, what the heck? And those should be... Can I explain something about how leadership works here in Pueblo?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have the floor.
Okay. So right now, we are under a strong mayor form of government. He has the ultimate say. A lot of people expect city council to solve all the problems because we used to be a city council, city manager form of government. So before you call your city councilor and you'd say, oh, I don't like the potholes on my street. And then he brings it to the table, and we as city council back then, we would tell the city manager, hey, we need this done. No, the mayor handles all of that now. So
all of what exactly?
Handles the administrative duties to all of the department heads. Oh. Like, I can't call the director of public works. I can't call him and say, hey, there's all these potholes and these people want them fixed. I'm not even allowed to call him because,
What happens if you do?
oh, I'm sure the mayor could flex his muscle. And so, but out of mutual respect and his authority, I don't call his department heads and ask them to do anything. I work with some of his department heads on some things we wanted to accomplish, but I'm really supposed to ask the mayor if I can even call and talk to one of his department heads.
Oh, wow. And for the people that don't know, Mayor Gradishar, right? Mayor Gradishar is your current mayor in Pueblo. Some people don't even know that.
Yeah, there are some things that, like when I say you have issues with 501, some of the nonprofits and the things that they're supposed to do, where I can handle that is that, or I have some say in it, is I have some say as a council member how the money is spent. But I might think, oh, we're not going to spend it over here. But if the other 6 think that they're going to want to spend it there, then it gets spent there because that's where the majority comes in. And so as far as like the med rides and Golden Gate, we don't work directly. They're not government, right? They might be government funded through Medicaid and so forth. But so that's the other thing is I don't know everybody's day to day, but I will look into things and I will try to get answers to the best of my ability. But I'm going to tell you the other thing is I could call one of the departments. I can get permission to. They don't have to give me the answer. So
why not?
Because they answer to the mayor. They don't answer to me.
Oh, wow. Do you kind of hate that?
I think that it's not a good check and balance system. That means one person is in charge. And there's no checks and balances in it. Now, like with the President of the United States as the example, you have the Congress and the Senate that keep the checks and balances on the president. We don't have that here in Pueblo. We don't have that ability because the way the charter is written, and the charter is the Bible of what we can and cannot do here.
Can the mayor, who changes the charter?
The people.
The people do.
The people can come at any time and say, I want to change in the charter, and then they have to run a ballot initiative. They have to get enough signatures, and then it goes on the ballot, and then we change the charter.
When's the last time someone tried to take away the mayor's, overseeing like everything? When's the last time?
Well, that's just started.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In fact, that group coalition, they're called Back to City Manager. They came through. They got their petition approved through the city clerk's office, and then they went out and they got the signatures. They were trying to get 3,800 signatures, and they got 3,900 signatures. And then they recently they turned those signatures in, and then the city clerk office has to vet them because they have to be signed by a registered voter. And they have to be at the address that's on their voter registration. And they came back just here yesterday and said, oh, you're about 900 short. So you have 15 days to get that 900. And let me tell you, that coalition works really hard. And what will happen is then that will have to come before council, and council will have to agree to put it on the ballot. And it's going to be a special election. And there's a whole backstory behind it. But there may not even be a mayoral position to run for after July of this 2023.
Wow.
Because if it passes, then there will not be a 2023 mayoral election.
So in the end, the people have to vote, basically. It has to get through a few things, and then people vote for it in the end.
Correct.
Well, you guys better vote no on that. Street champs for mayor? No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I mean it's a flawed system. Obviously, I think there should be checks and balances, like you're saying. But I don't necessarily think that city council should have everything. I think the president's the president for a reason. Like emulate that on a smaller scale is what we're trying to do. I would think. So yeah. All right, we'll keep going with these. I told them I would read every single one.
It won't stop it just stopped right there, but there's a lot more comments.
Oh, nice. Okay. Reed Nieces.
That was the one about the Denver.
Oh, word.
And I tried to scroll down, but it won't let me scroll down either.
Shall I finish that? Really, city leadership can talk to the city leadership in Denver. We can't do anything about it because those people have the freedom to go from city to city. Now, if the city of Denver is complicit in that and they're disrespecting the other cities that they send these people to, that's when the citizens can just as well call up to the city leadership in Denver and say, stop busing people down here. They can throw protests, but really that's a conversation the mayor should be having with the mayor of Denver.
This is a fact that they're doing this?
I don't know. We're told. I've never seen anyone and that being happen, and I've never seen like a newscaster come out or anybody come out with a video that goes, oh, look it, and they're interviewing the people that come off the bus. So that might be something if you guys know where the bus is dropping off, but we've asked the police department, is this happening? We've asked other, members of the community that might see it, and they can't verify that. And so I have never personally seen it. And people say, well, it happens all the time because they heard it from this person and they heard it from that person and this and that. Okay, where's the video? Right. We have to prove it.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to stick up for it, because if somebody brought me a video and it was showing it, I'd be asking the mayor to make that phone call to Denver.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I seems like a tough thing to organize.
Mm-hmm.
Busting a bunch of homeless people.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? Maybe if you, I don't know. Like you said, just have to see proof.
Mm-hmm.
Housing resources are limited here.
Housing resources are really limited. And so, we don't have housing resources for employed people. And then that price of housing has gone out of control. Here's an interesting thing. It's a topic right now on city council. And the city received a $3.1 million grant for housing. Now there's some conditions behind that grant. The grant it's directly for homeless people. And they want you to offer some sort of support services for a 15-year period. And so whether that be mental health, whether that be, addiction recovery, whatever it is. By the time they chop that up with, we're going to give, delegate some money here to manage it and some money over here to help with mental health resources. In the end, they said, we have $2 million.
What is that? You're kind of smiling like it's like a secret.
Well, no, we only have $2 million. Now we have $3.1 million, but now we're down to $2 million. Mm-hmm. Well, how many houses is that going to provide? 6. And I'm not saying houses because they have to be rental. They have to be rentals. They have to be subsidized, government subsidized housing. 2 million, but we're going to reserve 500,000 over here, for construction and that management of that process to build 6 units for people to live in. Mm-hmm. $3 million. 1.6 goes to the management and the administration of it, and you're left with 1.5 to provide housing. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean?
Yeah, so you're alluding that the money was mismanaged by the management company.
It's not a management company. It's the city of Pueblo, and it is our CBDG block grant funding, mm-hmm. and that's how he set the budget up.
Who's he?
and that he runs that department, and his name is Brian Gallagher. And so he has to go through a series of processes to get to where he creates the budget, presents the budget. He has to have a bunch of stakeholder meetings. And who are stakeholders? Stakeholders are the support services. And then he has to have public meetings. Well, he had a couple of public meetings. He had 6 people from the community at one meeting, 15. So at that point, he's just doing whatever 6 or 15 people, however many people show up to his meeting, and they're creating this budget. But I would like to see 8 units or 10 units or 12 units, because that's what we're supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah. So basically, Brian was his name.
Mm-hmm.
Allegedly, what you're saying, that they took a hefty salary and didn't
Not
build as many
Brian.
houses as
There's
they could.
all different entities involved.
Okay.
And the best way to probably understand it, do you know the meetings are filmed,
Yes.
videoed?
Yeah.
Is to watch a meeting. And then
Or go every other Tuesday, right? Or
Monday.
Sorry.
And
other
actually
Monday,
every Monday. It's actually every Monday.
Oh.
Because on the second and the fourth Monday is a meeting where we can vote and decide all the things that we discussed in the other 2 Mondays where you don't have a formal meeting. That's so that you're learning about, being advised as to what they're wanting you to vote on.
Are those meetings pretty populated?
They have grown. I want to tell you that when I first was on council, there was like 59 viewers, and now sometimes there's up to over 2,000.
Wow.
So people are interested in what's going on. And then, people comment, and, I've got the same 5 haters like every week.
Really?
And I'm like,
What do
oh,
they
guys.
say?
Oh, they say things like, oh, she thinks she's so arrogant. She thinks she's better than everyone else. She's crazy. They talk about, I had claimed bankruptcy. They want to talk about my bankruptcy from many years. Well, you know what? You be a single woman. You be a single mom. You try to make it in this world. And, they want to talk about that. And yet, there's a lot of people that have had bankruptcy. And I have a bankruptcy because I'm like a regular, everyday person that has the same struggles. And I thank God that I found an opportunity to try to alleviate myself rather than, hey, I could always stick a needle in my arm and be numb to all the bad things that, come about me in life. And I'm not saying it makes me better. I'm just saying it's an option to try. We are. This entire nation is probably hurting more than it's ever hurt before, at least since I've been alive. And there are resources, and you have to utilize the resources to your best of your ability to survive, because there's the only other option is to deaden yourself to the world and disconnect. Yeah. And life is too good for that. I've seen a lot of great places. I've done a lot of great things. And I just grew up in a regular, middle-class family neighborhood, with my own struggles. I grew up in in a very affluent family in the community, and I too am dark. I too have been, thought, I know what that's like.
What do you mean?
I'm dark skinned. I've had the same struggles, maybe not as bad as some, and maybe, so I know what it's like for people to think less of me because of the color of my skin, because of where I come from, because I was born to teenage parents. You know, I mean, people, I know what people do. But here's the thing, is people aren't going to steal my dreams. People aren't going to stop me from being who I think I can be or who I want to be and try to be successful. And I wish more people got that, how important they are. And it doesn't, everybody doesn't make, it's not what people think is what makes you important. What makes you important is your abilities and to use them, you know, to live life to the best of your abilities.
Well, do you feel like, we'll keep reading these. I said, she officially has 6'8". Oh my gosh. Actually, you're hilarious. Stop that.
Oh, okay, good.
Can you?
You know what? Haters are wasting their time with me because I don't care about that. I want to try to move forward, right? I'm not going to sit around and worry about who's hating me or not. So,
yeah. Do you ever feel like those haters get to you? Like ever?
No.
Never.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
No.
That's tough skin.
You have to be. You have to be really thick-skinned on this, and you have to believe in yourself. Once you believe in yourself and you're striving to do the right thing, you got to go. If you don't stand with yourself, then guess what? You're going to stumble a lot. You're going to stumble a lot. And, you know, going back to your article, like I say, Anna Lynn herself is trying to fit in, you know?
Yeah.
And I didn't think it was bad. I didn't like go, oh my gosh, you know, Anna Lynn's right or anything. I just thought, how interesting. This guy's interesting. Because, you know, misfits, if that's what they want to call us, because we're different, or we think differently, or we do differently. You know, they want to use the term misfits. Well, guess what? You know, misfits, there's some geniuses within misfits. There are good people within misfits.
Definitely.
So,
what's your opinion on the Pueblo chieftain?
the chieftain has struggled. You know, I think they've only got, 6,000 subscribers now? You know, it's kind of it's struggled. But politically, we're in, like, the worst time of our lives, politically. So even the media, you know, they choose a side, and they shouldn't be choosing a side. And it's giving, I feel like a lot of it is a biased opinion, but I've seen fair articles too.
What direction would you say the Pueblo chieftain leans when typically?
They say they lean left. You know, we have a far left, you know, we're a nonpartisan, like mayor, city council, we're nonpartisan.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? It means you don't legislate to a certain political party belief. You're supposed to not think about politics or bring politics into it. But we're all registered something or another as a voter. See, voters belong to parties. So how do you, let's just be honest about it. This is just how it's going to be. And so they say, you know, our mayor likes to tout that he is the most nonpartisan mayor. And yet he's been a staunch Democrat for many years. You can't, it identifies, our parties sort of identify with our values. And because of that, you bring it to the table. It just is what it is. Well, and even the voters who are unaffiliated, they're going to like one way or the other. They never say, oh, I just leave myself open because I just want to be able to vote. But when they vote for what they value.
Yeah, I would say most people, I would think are picking the good and bad from each one. They're multifaceted people. There's not. I think our generation is. We're not leaning Democrat just because our parents did anymore, or just because we like the person that's running. We're able to see the nuance in between each person and each side.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a dated system. As you're registered, it's like you said, it's going to be like that for a while until someone starts saying, I'm not this, I'm not that. I'm a person who has different emotions that will change their mind when I'm presented with new evidence.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's.
Yeah, we always have to be open-minded. There were a lot of things, that I bring to the table or I stick with because I've seen them work in society. I'm twice your age, so I've lived a little bit longer. So you see how things work and how things function, and if it works, that's why I'm, real big on drug recovery, because I've seen a lot of people who have recovered, and
Well, we can get some of the guests in here. She's kind of familiar with that. If you want to come here and speak about it,
mm-hmm.
are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
While she's doing that, while she's setting herself up, which would you say you lean any type of direction?
I'm a registered Republican. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that I agree with everything that they do. Mm-hmm. But I'm like I said, I'm like faith, family, country. So I don't know what that is. If it's necessarily fully 100% conservative,
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I don't like politics. I find no pleasure in this. I could be, I could go into retirement and go live on the beach somewhere, but that's not going to help my community. And I came in to try to expose a lot of what's going on, and give power back to the people.
Yeah, that's fair. But as you were saying, drug recovery. What was your point on that? Just
on drug recovery.
Yeah, you said that you were a big proponent of that. Was that your exact word?
Yes.
Okay.
Of drug recovery. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Systems that work, proven systems that work. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I am kind of. I have to be more researched on this topic.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the proven methods that work?
First, it starts off with the willing. You want to recovery. You want to recover, and that they create programs, and it comes from the person, and so they have to want to recover. They have to be dedicated to following their program, and they have to disconnect from their old world and surround themselves with a drug-free environment, and they have to be dedicated to doing that. And so that goes with, like I was talking earlier about, Crossroads and offering that drug recovery program to people who can't afford recovery. And I don't think that that's been offered here for a long time in Pueblo. And we have a lot of people that are suffering from homelessness, mental illness, and you can't solve those problems if you don't take the drugs out of it.
Yeah, I think that is also where we come.
Will you give them your credentials? Are you comfortable with just giving what you do?
So I've worked in the substance use field for almost 3 years now. So I've seen it all. I currently work in the field, and I deal with a lot of resources. And so I kind of seen it all. I know especially Crossroads, what they offer, and it is very limited. And I think the leading factor to homelessness is due to the increase of drug and alcohol use and mental health. You know, a lot of people cannot live their daily activities without this problem getting resolved. There's not many resources, and I know for a fact Crossroads, they do court order treatments. You know, I think sometimes the push, yes, of course you do have to be willing, just with anything, you know, to.
What does staunch mean? Like Killian asked that.
Set in their ways.
Set in their ways.
Mm-hmm. Like live or die.
Political hack, dark but Republican. God, it finds no pleasure in serving her community. I don't think she meant that.
Well, you know, Elvis Martinez was one of my opponents.
Oh, really?
And he's lost. He lost against me. And so he has, you know, I've never seen such a poor sport in my life.
Really?
You know, and you know, the thing is I liked Elvis. I thought he was cool. I was cool with him. He was cool with me. And then he lost. And he's just been, you know, unfortunately, he is, I wouldn't want to present myself the way he does, you know, because he's very critical of myself and one other female council member by the name of Lori Winter. He's like, we call him, and I've said this to him before, Cindy Brady, snitch, snitch, snitch.
I don't know what that is.
I know, because you guys are of a different generation, do you know? But Lori and I grew up in a generation of the Brady Bunch. Marsha. And their little sister Cindy, she would go and she'd tattle all the time. And so that's what he brings to the table. His perspective of how Lori and I should legislate on council, how we should live our personal lives, how we, you know, should wear our hair that day. And he comes to the table and he thinks he's offering valid, important advice publicly, because he comes and speaks at the public forum about Lori and I.
He tells you how to wear your hair?
Well, no, it's an example.
Oh, okay.
It's an example. But he'll say how, oh, you know, Lori, she doesn't pay her taxes because she gets one of her vehicles licensed in Texas. Well, she has a part-time residence in Texas. Or because she has a part-time resident in Texas, she shouldn't be serving on city council. Well, the woman has worked her entire life, and she's retired, and she has a little beach house in Texas. So she's not entitled to that. You know, I mean, come on. I mean, we hear about it like every week at council.
Oh, really?
We hear about my bankruptcy or how I was arrested, you know, and he thinks he's up there and he's being all discreet about it. And he's got 5 minutes, and it's like 5 minutes of our lives we're never going to get back.
Oh, man.
You know, and then he'll, he wants to text me and tell me what to do. I elected you. You're my elected official. You need to answer the phone now. Yeah, right.
Wow.
To get into like a controversial conversation that's going to lead to nowhere. And yet, even since I've been elected, I've helped Elvis. He came to council. He had an issue with his ballot, and it was a valid issue. So I took him to the county commissioners. We went over, I helped him write, I actually wrote the complaint for him to the Secretary of State.
What was wrong with the ballot?
The ballots in this, in June of 2022, the ballots were off because of districting. And all the things I didn't know about before I became an elected official. But because of the districting was off, the wrong people were on the wrong ballot. So if you lived in a certain area, your people that you were supposed to vote for, A, B, and C, you had A, B, and D on there. And so he had one of those ballots, but I took him down. We went and worked it out. He filed I wrote the complaint so that he could file it with the Secretary of State. I called my friend Sean Rice at KRDO, and he came and did a wonderful interview for Elvis. And then, I don't know, 2 or 3 months later, I was back to being like his worst nightmare for existing. So, hey.
I took my own self. How old is Elvis?
Oh, we met there at the same place. That's right. He drove his car and I drove my car. Elvis is 30. He's young. I think maybe I'm even being kind. Maybe he's 32. He's somewhere in that age range, And Elvis, anytime I had an event, Elvis was welcome to come and talk to people. Elvis was welcome to come and give flyers. Heather Graham and I, we let him come on the float in the parade because he didn't have his own float.
I mean, 30 is, that's kind of the age that I'm trying to aim for. So that's, at least he's in there, I suppose.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't even in there.
Mm-hmm. And so the way I'm with you is the same way I've been with Elvis. He's the one that got all evil.
They said, call Elvis. Can I call you now? Can he call you now? I don't know.
Oh yeah, you could put Elvis on. If Elvis wants to call in and you want to put him on the line,
I mean, if you're comfortable with that, we can do
I'm
that.
fine with it. Hey, this isn't public forum. In public forum, we can't respond back. The public comes forward, they get 5 minutes to speak, but it's not an interaction.
Yeah, I mean, Elvis, if you want to call, I guess, have her phone number. She said it out loud. If you want to go to their website or whatever, call. I'm gonna get when I win, I'm gonna have to get 2 phones because I definitely don't want people calling my personal line. I'll need the Kevin Gates treatment. Yeah, that's interesting. That's haters, I guess.
Yeah, we're always gonna have him. We're always gonna have haters. People want to take you down, and instead of challenging you and competing against you, they just want to badmouth you. Elvis came up. I said, "Hey, let's go ahead and we're going to split the vote." And I had financial backing from my donations that he didn't.
What does he mean, split the vote?
Which means is we're both in the same district. So if there's 6,000 votes, it's going to split the vote. And our main goal was to beat Bob Schilling. So we're going to split the vote, and the possibility was we could lose against Bob Schilling. And I had financial backing. I had a lot of donations, and Elvis didn't.
What did the donations help you with?
The donations help you with your signs, with all of your marketing.
Hold up. Chauncey, the screen messed up.
See, look at Elvis. I have a halo.
Sorry about that, guys. I have a halo. What is a halo? Like he's an angel?
Like he's an angel.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. See, though.
Oh, wow, the screen's been like that for 5 minutes? Wow. I'm sorry, guys. Damn it, Chauncey. All right.
Well, at least they're interested, right?
Yeah.
They're typing in, and they're interested. And that's good. That's good for you, and it's good for them to get them energized, because they're the ones, when you have that ballot in front of you, you're making a choice for change, for improvement of your community, and you've educated yourself. It's just not a bunch of names in front of you. That's the one important thing I always tell people. And don't vote for the guy you went to high school with, or the girl that used to be your coworker, or she was your neighbor and you grew up with her. Really know who's out there and what their true intentions are.
Yeah, I think when every city council member comes on here and every mayoral candidate comes on here, that's kind of what I want to do with this whole process. Just shine a light where people just forget to shine a light. Sometimes people just graze over it, like it doesn't affect them. But we'll keep going with the comments. Deryk, the screen's messed up. We can't see her. Well, it's fixed now. Trying to give that cat some privacy. What? Oh, my cat's sleeping right next to you. What age group have you noticed is the most involved with Pueblo and its future?
Okay, so you have the older generation, even older than me, that are trying to hold on to life the way they knew it was. You know, they know the way life is. And they're not real big on change. And we don't give them enough respect in their thoughts. Even my generation doesn't give them enough respect in their thoughts. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. But you know what? If you look back, life was a lot better then. You know, we had more. What
years exactly?
I would say from 65 on up. That's an official senior age, 65 on up. They have experienced war. Maybe not here, but in other places. And so they really value how we run as a society as far as, you know, in God we trust, the flag, standing and for the flag and respecting the flag and saluting the flag. They want to see respect for law enforcement. They want to see, you know, kids being able to play out on the streets again in their front yards and it be safe and a safe community. And, you know, they just want to see the American dream. They were probably one of the hardest working generations, you know, through the steel mill and blue collar. And so they want to preserve that. And then you have, I would say from 40 to my age.
How old are you again? I'm sorry.
I'm 57.
57.
So about 40, say 40 to 65, maybe 57, right in that area. You have people that still don't have a clue about politics and how it runs and how important it is to really know who you're voting for. And to I don't listen to the TV on what they have to say. I do my own research. You got to have to do a lot of your own research. So when that ballot's in front of you, you know really what it means.
So, sorry, I don't
go ahead.
But, you know, with this time and day, you know, everything is constantly evolving. You know, there has to be room for change. You know, we're not the same as it was in 45 years ago. Or,
yeah.
You know?
Well, and not only that, you're new to what's going on now. You're the new generation, so you didn't even experience that.
Exactly. So that's why I feel, you know, there is room to change. And if we are still trying to make it how it was ran in 1965, you know, it's just, it doesn't work. What do you feel that we can do today in this world now, this year, that would benefit every age group?
Well, don't forget. In 1965, in the mid-60s, was when the civil rights movement came forward. And that change began. It began and it evolved. So we're talking about the same people. You see what I mean? They were the change of their generation. So to say that, you know, we still need more change, yes, because we're still evolving. So that's where you have to give them, like, some sort of credit into what their thoughts are, because they've brought us here. they brought us to this point, you know, not all of it's been good. And the experience that goes through it, it's not, oh, hey, we woke up and I have this idea. It's great. And we should have ideas, but we have to be critical thinkers. We have to be deep thinkers. And I use experiences, not just mine, but other people's, to make my decisions. And it's a trust. It's trusting that generation, and that generation has to also have a mutual respect and trust this generation too. And we leave politicians to make those decisions for us, and we should be talking to each other. And so, yes, as you move forward, you're going to ask yourself, your generation should be asking yourself, what do I want to see from myself? What do I want to see from my future? What do I want to see from my family? Do I want a family in the future? Do I not want a family in the future? How do I want to see life move on? Do I want it easier? Do I want it harder? And it's a lot. And that's why people don't think about it, of any age group. It's too much. It's too much to think about. And they go, I went to school with Billy Bob. I'm going to check him on the ballot, and not really know what Billy Bob's all about, or Susie, you know. I don't want to be sexist and say that all men are politicians.
City council is majority women, is it?
It's
not?
a majority women. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That
That aren't even all thinking alike. They all seem to have like a difference of thought process. You know, they talk about, sometimes the younger ladies will say, oh, Woman of the Year and Year of the Woman, and girl, I done moved these generations forward. This is just something new for you. I've been a woman in construction for over 30 years. Before that, I worked at the steel mill. Before that, I worked in an auto parts store. I've always worked in a man's world. You don't think I was moving things forward? You know? I have women that come into the industry now that come in with a college education. I didn't enter it with a college education. And they come in and they say, oh, girl, you gotta wear a little shield of armor and you gotta have some thick skin. It's not, I just get to be here because I'm a woman and we have to open up the doors for me because I'm a woman. In everything that anyone does, male or female, they have to earn their way. In anything that we do, we have to prove ourselves. And, I don't know that ever stops. And so we just keep on going.
Yeah. Wow. I like that. All right. Explain to the woman how. Explain. Alva's called?
Oh, I'll put him on. But let's answer some questions here.
Okay. Explain to this woman how nobody in this room really knows what they're doing right now. This is like watching Rick and Bobby and Ricky and Bobby. That's hilarious. Sponsor Street Champs in general. Anyway.
Oh, Elvis wants to know what nickname that I would give him. I just called him Cindy Brady. I'm sorry, Elvis. That's what a lot of people call you. Or here's another one. A legend in your own mind.
Oh my God. Dang.
Elvis, you know what? Elvis knows that I love him regardless. If that's how he wants to be, let him be that way. That's who he wants to be. And so let him be that way. I'm not going to get all frustrated over it. People go, oh, Elvis, he's so blah, blah, blah. You know what? Elvis has his own life to live. He'll either reap from it or he'll have, he could have consequences for how he speaks to people, how he addresses people in public. his thoughts and his, people may say, oh, I'm not going to vote for Elvis. And so, because, he'd like to run for mayor. So it's all open.
Elvis, yeah. I mean, if you're going to run for mayor, man, you got to come here and make this one your stops. Monty says she'll give me $20 to read one page out of a Harry Potter book. That's hilarious. Yo, shout out Mayweather and 50 Cent. It's their thing. Okay, but really, what is it like to attend a Proud Boys rally? Is that to you?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. A lot of people think that when I'll tell you how I got interested in what was going on here.
Chauncey, you want to come on? I feel like you're about to.
What? I'm good.
No.
No, I'm good. But thank you.
Can you explain what the Proud Boy rally is?
I don't even know what a Proud Boy rally is. I've never been to one. I had gone up to the statue protest, and I went to the statue protest. I wasn't standing on either side.
Christopher Columbus statue.
The Christopher Columbus statue. And I didn't realize there was a side. This is what happened. Just before that protest started on July 5th, I had gone and visited my stepdaughter in Salt Lake City. And I said, let me take you, let's all go to dinner. Salt Lake City is a beautiful, iconic city. And so they have a beautiful downtown. I said, let's go downtown. Let me take you to dinner. And she goes, Mom, you can't. And she says, because they came in and they tore up the downtown and they put graffiti everywhere and they tore down the statues.
In Salt Lake.
In Salt Lake. Okay. Yeah, that's what I said. Okay. I was like, in Salt Lake City? Why in Salt Lake City?
What were the statues?
They were it's a Mormon community. So they're Mormon.
John Smith, or as John Smith, Mormon.
You know what? I never really paid attention. That's not what I was there for. I like the way it's kind of a little retro metro downtown, It's cute. They got a lot of shops, restaurants, and things like that. I wasn't looking at the statues. But I thought, well, why is that? And I went to bed that night thinking, gosh, what's going on, So then I come home, and I rode my motorcycle, by the way, on this trip by myself. Wow. It was a really cool ride. I come home, and I see on Facebook, Antifa is calling out for people to go to the Columbus statue to take the statue down.
In Pueblo.
In Pueblo.
Okay.
So I wanted to go see, is this what's happening in Salt Lake City? And so I go out there and I'm thinking freedom of speech for everyone. This is their freedom of speech. This is their right to protest. I want to see what it's about. So I went down there out of curiosity. And I saw some things that I was like, unbelievable. Going back and forth.
Like what?
Hey, brown bitch. That's what they were saying to me. You must like your grabbed. Because I had American flag. I was representing like the Constitution and the right to freedom of speech and the right to protest.
Which side was saying this to you? I feel like
because what they did was they put police tape up. So then you had one side and you had another. And I'm there. Well, apparently, I never knew what a Proud Boy was. But apparently Proud Boys were there on that side of the tape. Apparently Sons of Silence or, I don't know, some motorcycle group. And the next thing you know... And I'm watching this whole thing going on, disrespectful to the police, screaming at the police, calling them killers. And I felt bad because my great-grandmother was Ute Indian. And I thought it became something very different than what I had seen for many nights, many Columbus Day celebrations before, where you had the Native Americans and the Italians. It was a completely different scene. These are people I didn't even know. On either side. Like I said, I just moved back. I'd been on the road working. There were a few people that I was talking to while I was there, and I met them, but we didn't have like conversations that were racist or anything like that. We're just like, oh my gosh, this is different. Something different is going on here. And then the next day they have me on Facebook. I'm this white supremacist, which doesn't make any sense. Right.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't want to go either way. I think
but
you say for yourself that you'll give your reasoning, and I'm a biased person just getting your story here.
And I mean, it's just, it was the middle of summer, so I was extremely dark. So there's no sense made in any of this. I'm a white supremacist. I'm tied to the Proud Boys. I'm a Proud Boy lover. And all it was they didn't know me from Adam. I just happened to be when they put the police tape up on that side of it.
What's Adam?
I don't, it's just it's a saying.
Oh,
yeah.
oh.
They don't know me from Adam.
Oh, okay.
It's a saying,
oh.
They don't know me, and they have me up on social media, and they're calling me all of these names and referring that I'm to all of this and everything. Mm-hmm. What that took me into was learning about Antifa, the Proud Boys, and all the different groups. I educated myself. I did a lot of research.
And what's your opinion on those groups?
I'm kind of wondering what's the agitation for? Why are they agitating? They were brought in by people from Pueblo, but they're not really all from Pueblo. And why are they creating a division that I had not seen in Pueblo before? I hadn't seen that. I hadn't seen people all of a sudden waking up. For me, it was like they woke up and were back into the pre-civil rights days. Mm-hmm. And so they have one the next week. I go the next week, and they're all armed. And
Antifa, Proud Boys or the left side.
I didn't see the Proud Boys there who they identified as the Proud Boys because they wear a uniform. They all wear the same shirt. Oh. I didn't even know what a Proud Boy was until I researched it.
Oh, so they were all there matching the first time?
Yeah, they were there. They had there was only 3 or 4 of them, and they all had polo shirts on with a little thing. What I learned,
like a pin?
Like a little, I don't know, symbol or. I didn't even pay attention because I didn't know who they were. And the thing about it, what I learned was that the Proud Boys go wherever Antifa goes. That's what I learned. Because they're in conflict with government and how one thinks about government and how the other doesn't. That's way deeper than us. And that's why I say I don't ever want to see militia police on the corners, because that means we've come to a place where you can't turn back. And that type of the way people are, the way those groups are fighting this could lead us to that. And that's what I was seeing there. And I, like I said, I did a lot of research on all of the groups. And I outed a lot of people because then as a citizen, I went to city council and I spoke on it. Why is this happening here in our community? Why are we allowing them to come in and agitate the community?
Did you see any community members that were identifying as either group?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. The mayor's niece, Emily Gradisar, She was part of it. She called herself a comrade. And here's this, Deryk. Everything I'm telling you, I can show you the documentation to support it.
What is the significance of calling someone a comrade?
That's in the Mao. There are anti-American groups that infiltrate this country to try to change what people think. And one is that was participated up there was a Maoist communist group, and they had their website open and their manifesto to everything. They believe in a communist form of government. The Pueblo defund PD, right there on their own website, they said that they fashioned themselves after the Black Panther movement, which goes against the government.
The Pueblo Police Department?
No, it's called Defund Pueblo PD.
Oh,
and they were an organization that thinks the police department needs to be defunded. Okay. There were the Proud Boys. There were Antifa. And through my investigations led me to intel organizations that would track the whereabouts and the activities of Antifa, the Proud Boys, and all these different groups. So then they reached out to me, and then they educated me on what was going on. And I just thought that is not something that our community does not need to be here. We don't need to go back pre-civil rights, and be upset with each other. We've come way too far for that. Whether it be racial, whether it be gender, whether it be anything, we don't need to be participating in that kind of chaos. We should love thy neighbor, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And so what I was seeing was a lot of conflict. And because I was going and saying, hey, why are these groups here? Why is Pueblo, Colorado, one of the top 12 chapters of the Maoist Communist Party?
So you're implying that Emily Gradishar, the niece to Mayor Gradishar, is
she was part of that, yes.
Is it Maoist?
Maoist or Maoist. They used to make fun of me because I would never pronounce it right. And I'd say, actually, I don't really give a fuck. Okay?
You can cuss on here.
We're
cool.
I don't really care how I pronounce it. All I know is you're coming in here and you're causing disturbance in our community with your...
Yeah.
And I want better for that than my community. My community doesn't need to be held prisoner to your antics up here at the statue, and you're utilizing the statue as, a pawn in all of things that are way bigger than this statue. Mm-hmm. But you're using it as a justification for being here.
In your opinion, should the statue stay up or be taken down?
I think the statue is a form of anyone's freedom. That statue, they want to say it's the Italian community. The Italian community covets it. They have they're tied to it. Every culture in this community should respect each other's culture.
Up to a point, I feel like.
If we're about freedom,
but some cultures not.
It's a statue. It's a piece of. If it doesn't have significance to you, then it doesn't have significance to you. If it does, let the Italians do their thing. You wouldn't want us to. That's part of their culture. That's part of their celebration. And then if we do our research, there's things that contradict everything. As in the story of Christopher Columbus. Mm. And so, this is what I can tell you, a good friend of mine who is from Italy, who is a resident of Pueblo for many years. She says, because she's got an Italian accent, she says, what people don't seem to understand is what we celebrate is a man who had the balls to get on broken vessels and try to make it across the world to see what it was about. And that enough there for me is to be proud. See, it's not as deep for some as what people might think.
Yeah. There was, I think, well, I got there's 2 points to this.
Mm-hmm.
There is a person on city council right now that defaced the statue, right?
Correct.
He did deface it. We'll get into that. But also, if you're relating it to like American history, is it okay to have statues of Robert E. Lee or other like notorious Southern figures? I believe that if it's causing a group of people, to have some sort of like mental flashback, what's
a mental flashback of something you didn't experience?
I mean, that's true.
Okay, and the other thing too is I am not, obviously, if I was living back then, I'd be on the side of the North. Okay. I don't believe in discrimination or racism. And so I was very offended when people called me a racist. That's, you want to say, if I've ever really succumbed, something bothered me, is when somebody has called me a racist.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not. And we're better than that. Pueblo has always been better than that. It's always been the melting pot that I moved to 35 years ago. I grew up in a cultural family. Everybody has their different beliefs and different way of things. I got one grandma calling me Hita, and I have the other grandma saying, we're American.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, really, it's not a conflict. It shouldn't be a conflict. But that's what happens.
Yeah.
It's simple little things like that. And I just didn't want to see making an issue that maybe and maybe that was just my own feeling, but I didn't think it really existed. Did you feel like you grew up in such a...
Well, I am not Native American, like to the point where I have a big calling towards it. My family's Mexican. We do Mexican traditions.
Mm-hmm.
So if there was a statue, like celebrating who, I don't know, was it the 13th Cavalry, I think, was the one that went down to Mexico and did major damage. If there was a statue celebrating them, I would probably, I wouldn't enjoy seeing that every day on my way to work. But I think you can't tell another person how to feel. Like if a Native American whose bloodline, they can trace it back to, a person who did experience that, then they feel more deeply because it's in their family history. It just makes sense.
Okay, so let me give you an example.
Okay.
Let's take the name off of Cesar Chavez Academy. Do you know why I say that?
No. What would be your reasoning?
Because his cause was farm labor. Mm. It was to bring rights to farm labor workers. Mm-hmm. And do you know what illegal immigrants did?
What?
They came in and they took his work away from his legitimate workers because they had to come in with their cards, right? Back then, you had to have your green card to come and work. And then he was trying to get a sustainable wage for them, get them some rights as workers here in the U.S. Mm-hmm. Well, if you didn't come over with your green card, the farm workers, they would hire the illegals over Cesar Chavez's people, mm-hmm. farm labor workers. Mm-hmm. he formed the first border control patrol. He sent people down there to keep the illegals back on the other side.
I've never heard that, so I don't know.
Well, I know a lot of people don't know that, but you know what? I don't think his name should come off the academy because he did so many other things. Mm-hmm. And so we can't, if we went with every single thing, we would eliminate everything. This is just history. It's history. Christopher Columbus never even came to this part of America. Never came up north. And so did Christopher Columbus solely bring all of this here? No, he was hired by the King and Queen of Spain. So what do you say about the Spaniards that had a part in it? I mean, are we going to do that? Is that what we're going to do? We're going to just sit here and just, pull it all apart, and then we have nothing to look back and see where we came and what our mistakes were. And I'm going to tell you that any time that there's a power struggle, when somebody wants power, they're going to take victims.
So you're saying it had to happen?
I'm not saying it had to happen. That's what always happens. Mm-hmm. That's not the only. We have wars all the time. It's all about a power struggle. And look at the casualties. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we always have casualties in any kind of power struggle. And so, does this mean how many years later we're supposed to be standing on the street? People can't open their businesses. And arguing over the statue.
Said Regina will take a puff of a blunt if Deryk lit one up now. Can you guys end the stream? Jeez. That's funny. Yeah, I think it brings us back to the point, you can't tell someone how to feel. Mm-hmm. If they're feeling more deeply than you, then...
Mm-hmm.
There's always a pushing point, though, breaking point, especially me being Native American. Mm-hmm. I don't really feel, I don't have my likings for having.
Be blunt. Say
Go ahead, hon.
I don't like it.
We are in this safe
especially
place.
Because it's who I am and who I was raised by. My grandma, she was 100% Native American, and that's would not be sitting right here right now if it wasn't for my tribe back home in Arizona.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I asked you, are you Native American? Are you belong to your tribe?
And I do. I do. Mm-hmm. They've done so much for me, so I always try to give back to them. But just, and it does take it. And I know I was not, obviously, I wasn't there. I didn't firsthand experience it. But coming from that background where it did come from my family, ancestors did experience that. It does, it kind of hurts that we don't have a person to celebrate or,
but you do.
Someone to not know, no, it's not.
Well, I think like all of the Indian chiefs have Geronimo and Crazy Horse and,
but it's not
fascinating
much. And I know Christopher Columbus Day is a world national holiday.
Mm-hmm. It's not anymore. Not here in the state of Colorado.
It's Indigenous Peoples Day.
It's an Indigenous Peoples Day. So you got Indigenous Peoples Day, and they got their statue. Yeah. When they changed it to Mother Cabrini Day, the agreement. The different groups, I think it was led here by Rita Martinez and El Movimiento Seguí.
That's a name?
Yes, that's their group.
Oh, okay.
El Movimiento Seguí.
Oh.
And Rita Martinez. And their group got with the Italians and the governor and got everybody involved. And they said, okay, change it to Mother Cabrini Day. So they changed it to Mother Cabrini Day. Okay, well, leave us alone about the statue. Okay. Well, guess who came away from the table and didn't follow through with their agreement?
Who?
Rita Martinez.
Oh.
She went back. She went back out there and led the protest to these statues.
Really?
Yes.
So she was the.
That's what I
organizer.
learned. Yeah, that's what I've learned. I wasn't there. This is what I've been, told on how that all came to play.
Interesting. Yeah.
So there was like a give and a take. Okay, we won't have Columbus Day. We'll have Mother Cabrini Day. Leave our statue alone. Okay. And then here we are. And it's still a contention. Trump is a duh. Biden is a L. I take it back now.
Regina, will you be on a board in passing an Elvis Day in Pueblo asking for a friend? Thank you. God bless you.
Well, there can always be a proclamation. I mean, he can always get someone to bring a proclamation for Elvis Martinez Day.
What does it take to get a day?
To get a day?
Yeah.
Is to ask for one.
Oh.
And then you write a story about yourself, why I'd like to have an Elvis Martinez Day, and you present it to the mayor's office, and they could decide whether or not they want to declare a day Elvis Martinez Day.
The mayor decides? Or
he can put it in front of council, and they can all this, but the mayor, you can ask the mayor's office, and the mayor will say yay or nay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, I mean, for as much as he comes to council, he should know that, but it's okay. I've helped you out again, Elvis, to get a day all to yourself.
Who's CC? Oh, Christopher Columbus.
Yes.
Okay.
Christopher Columbus. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Oh my gosh, we're almost 2 hours into this.
Yeah.
and the questions are still coming.
Yeah, there's 25 people currently watching live. 27, sorry.
27.
It went up.
It keeps fluctuating.
How do you feel about this conversation so far?
We're getting to know each other. I don't think there's anything that's like, we may disagree, but it's okay to disagree. You don't have to hate anybody. I was really offended. Okay, I got offended with my little best friend, Moni. She got mad at me because, I'm a Republican and she's a Democrat. And she got mad at me. We haven't been friends since after 30 years.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah. So, but that's because she was she was one of my besties. She was like back in the day, she was my girl, with all my girlfriends and my little crew when I was younger and had one. Wow. We were a crew of single moms.
Oh, really? And that tore you guys apart? Just the difference of opinions in that?
Just the difference of opinions. I told her, I still love you, Moni, every day. And she's like, I just don't want to have anything to do with you, G. And she, just slammed the door on me and hasn't talked to me since. And you know what? That's okay. Must have really irked her when I became a city councilwoman.
Oh, she's still here in Pueblo.
No, she's has a really good career. And so she lives out of town.
Oh, okay.
But she's still a hometown girl. Mm-hmm.
Wow. You feel like now that you're a city councilwoman, you feel like you've lost relationships or gained relationships?
I've gained a lot of relationships. I didn't ever lost relationships because of city council. I've lost relationships maybe because of political difference, and we not completely lost them, but they've been strained. And so, we have, but I've gained a lot of relationships from people I would never even think. But people who are interested and they want change and they want common sense, logical kind of thinking, because not everyone's going to be happy. That's just the facts. And unfortunately, the majority always wins. Well, let me tell you, on council, I lose a lot because I'm not the majority. And then we have to ask ourselves, but are we doing better? Are we cleaner? Do we have less crime? Do we have, less homelessness? Has our community improved with the majority? Now that's where, when if we're paying attention, that's where we want to change it up. We want to put those other ideas in place, because if it's not working for us. And that's the reason, Deryk, why the coalition came together and wanted to revoke the mayor's seat. There's a lot to that. It's not just the fact that he has all power, but we've had this mayor in place, mayor form of government, and it's been a short amount of time. And it costs us 4 times the amount of money than it does for a city manager, city council form of government. Have we gotten any bang for our buck? That's what people are saying. No, we haven't. We're not. Why do we pay all this extra money and we don't have?
Maybe we just don't have a good mayor.
Okay, I'm going to cuss one more time. Okay?
You have the floor.
When you give somebody ultimate power, you take the risk of them abusing it. My dad always says, man, so that could be man or woman, man, you put them alone in the room with a chicken, most likely they'll fuck that chicken and eat it too.
Wow.
And so
why?
It's a lot of trust. You have with that much power, you better have a lot of trust of that individual or not give it to them, because they will take the opportunity to abuse their power. It's natural. So about the chicken, that's just a natural instinct. Power struggles, right? When you have a power struggle, there are casualties. That's my example.
Personally, do you like Mayor Gradishar?
People say, oh, you hate the mayor. I don't hate the mayor. The mayor makes his choices, right? If I don't feel it's serving our community, I'm going to be resistant to that. I'm going to want to do what's best for our community. And so that creates conflict between him and I. But I don't hate anybody or anything. It's a waste of my energy and a waste of my time.
Are you a fan of his? Do you think he's abusing his power, like you're saying, or you think he's appropriately using his power?
I think that he has not only abused his power, but he's been a very partisan politician. And so, like I said, we can't please everybody, but we could try. And when you try, sometimes you get a healthy balance. And right now, we're not very balanced. And it's evident in what you see with crime, homelessness, trash, and all the other things. We people get what they're willing to tolerate. And it looks like we're willing to tolerate a heck of a lot, because right now we're suffering. Pueblo never looked like this. Pueblo was never filthy up and down the streets and the highways and all of that. We didn't have all of the homeless problems that we have now. But in all these years, we haven't had any solutions either. Haven't seen any solutions. It hasn't gotten better. So no, I'm not for his policies. I'd like to see something done differently, and I'd like to see an investment, because we're going to invest regardless. I'd like to see investment in recovery support, in our law enforcement, what we can do there. And it's not always throwing a bunch of money at it. That's not the answer. But it's, restoring some more, abilities. Or in that law that came down for state legislation, what they said is, you get into a situation and it's questionable, you're going to pay for it out of your pocket. So you're going to come to work, you're going to try to protect your community and protect yourself. And if something goes wrong, you have of being personally sued. I think they thought that might keep you from being a bad cop, but it also keeps you from being a good cop too, because now you have the fear of losing all of your home life and you being homeless yourself because you've lost some lawsuit that was brought against you where that was you were protected from that before that law came in place. Yeah. So that's why we're short as many offices. As people don't want to go into the profession anymore.
So Gratishar can't change that. He just doesn't change that.
No, well, Gratishar could lobby more for his community up with his our legislators at the Capitol. But if you're tied to your political party at the Capitol, they're tied to their political party and their belief. And so there's the connection. And he'll want to say, well, you want to do it your way. You're tied to your political party. Well, I'll tell you one thing is my political party wouldn't be in the situation we are with law enforcement these days, because we believe in law and order and respecting the police. And so, and giving them the ability to do their jobs rather than to be in dangerous situations and have to constantly second guess themselves if they're, if they're doing the right thing or not. And when you've got guns or you've got weapons or you've got resistance, that's a pretty heavy thing to put on anyone.
How did you meet Markley Dixon? Who's that person?
Oh, he wants to talk about an ordinance that I brought forward, which there's a huge backstory to it. But those who don't want to look at the headlines go, oh, she's, she doesn't care about women, she blah, blah, blah. And Markley Dixon was a legal consult that I used in order to bring an ordinance forward in Pueblo.
What was the ordinance?
The ordinance was an anti-abortion ordinance.
Oh, really?
And it was a very controversial ordinance. When it was brought to me by a group of constituents here in our community, they were concerned about an abortion clinic being opened up over by St. Mary Corwin Hospital. And I want to tell you, I don't believe in abortion for myself. I know that it's legal. And I didn't know a whole lot about it, and I had to educate myself pretty quickly.
On the ordinance or?
On if I felt what I was doing was right. Because we are a legal state and because abortion isn't something that I believe in. Okay? But I'm not here to make choices for other people.
Why not? Why don't you believe in it? Or I guess agree with it. Believing it is kind of, it exists. We don't.
Yeah.
You believe in the Bigfoot.
Well, for myself, I don't believe in terminating my child. And I wouldn't want that
at any rate, like not even like a Plan B pill.
That's just my own personal belief.
But
here's the thing. Understand this. I wasn't trying to make abortion illegal in a state where it's legal. What I was saying was, and what my community was asking me to do, is not have a clinic here. We had never had a clinic here. So what would it hurt? What was it hurting? And you have to go deep into the knowing. Do you know anything about abortion?
Like what? As in what aspect? What's your exact question? I mean,
like, do you know what the
abortion
law is here in Pueblo?
No.
Or in the state of Colorado?
I'm abortions are okay.
Do you know what but yeah, it's legal. Do you know any of the details of the law?
No, not exactly.
Okay, so just in a nutshell, all the way to giving birth, while the baby is coming through the birth, you have the right to terminate your child.
So they'll take like a 8-month baby and
A 9-month baby coming right through. It's time for delivery, and you have the right to terminate your child. And they say, "Oh, well, you know what? Who's going to do that? Who would do that? You know, you're just getting into the nitty gritty." So, in there are only 4 doctors in the country that perform that abortion from 6 to 9 months. Okay? One of those doctors opened that clinic.
do you know their name?
Yeah, Dr. Carhart. Dr. Leroy Carhart. That's where I thought I should bring it at least to the attention of the community that it shouldn't be here. Because then I had to go and research Dr. Carhart. And Dr. Carhart has malpractices, permanently injuring women to where they can never have children again. And he had 2 deaths under his belt since 2013. Dr. Carhart is 83 years old. So that was the first part of it. The second part was we have a law here that it doesn't have any regulation behind it. So I learned that there are 3 things that are important. The only things that 3 things that they refer to. It's all about money. Who's going to pay for it?
For the abortion.
For the abortion.
How much is an abortion?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Okay, but who's going to pay for it? A lot of people don't know you either have to have cash or privatized insurance, or you have to claim it's a rape or incest in order to get public funding. Okay? So that's what they were worried about. You don't have to be a licensed, you have to have a licensed physician license in the facility, but they're not regulated. Like a hospital's regulated, like someone goes around and makes sure the hospital is in compliance. Or the doctor's office or the dentist office. Abortion clinic, you don't have to. There's no inspector. There's nobody watching it. And you don't have to have a license to perform the abortion.
So anyone could perform an abortion? Is what you're
Oh,
saying?
yeah. Yeah. And
why is there only 4 doctors doing it? I would feel like it'd be a moneymaker.
6 to 9 months, because not every state is legal. Only Colorado and I think 2 or 3 other states are legal. That's where it's legal to. A lot of them have cutoff periods of 22 weeks or 24 weeks, or some less than that. Texas goes, I think, 6 weeks. It's called the Heartbeat Act. Once they detect a heartbeat, there's life. Dr. Carhart went on record in legislation, not here in Colorado. I can't remember if it was Nebraska or Carolina, wherever he's got some other things, stating that he'd prefer that the baby be born before he terminate it. So when he terminates it, rather than it, he's terminating it still while it's in the wound because it causes more complications. So he's admitting. And he also calls it a baby. The whole entire time that Dr. Carhart's in any public interview that he's given, he refers to it as a baby. Well, in legislation, they refer to it as a fetus. And Dr. Carhart refers to it as a baby. It validates what pro-life is saying. This is a life. It's a living life. And so, anyways, but that's for some people decide that that's what they believe in, and some people decide they don't believe in that. They believe that a woman's choice. Okay? So when we're getting into that, we're, so my thought was, at least I'm going to bring attention to this community about what's going on here on Ormond Avenue. And that even though we're a legal state for abortion and we want to give women their choice and they call it a health choice, it's not even freaking regulated to where women are protected. Like a car mechanic, I guess, could like perform an abortion because there's no regulation. So what's healthy about that?
Maybe, I mean, a common answer would maybe be like, let's regulate it.
Right. And I said, what this would do, this ordinance would do, because you could change an ordinance with the next council. What this could do is put a halt to Dr. Carhart while the pro-choicers figure out a healthier way for women to receive this. And for the pro-lifers, it keeps them off their doorstep for right. It keeps Dr. Carhart off their doorstep for right now. And they said, well, you know, who would do this? Well, Colorado, because we're not regulated, we don't even keep data on how many pregnancies are terminated. We don't have to report data or keep data on 6 to 9 months. And we have one doctor that performs those abortions in Boulder already. So Dr. Carhart's getting kicked out of his other communities in America, you know, that he resides in, and he wants to come over here in Pueblo, Colorado and exploit his community and bring his malpractice stuff to our community. Women's health care, okay, it's a need. But do we need health care like Dr. Carhart's offering, or because he's being chased out of there, he comes here?
Yeah, I think...
You know, so there's a lot to it. It's not, there's a lot, and in such a short amount of time, you can't educate everyone, and everybody can't do their own research.
Yeah.
And so we get to, at least it's a conversation, and it should be a question in people's mind. If it is it right for that women, if we care about women and women's health and we want to say abortion as an option is about healthy women, then we shouldn't just stop there. We should continue all the way until they're receiving quality, safe health care. Mm-hmm.
But, you know, if it's obviously legal here, we don't have many resources and for women to have the option to be able to make that choice for themselves or not. You know, there's so many women who are having babies who are born addicted to drugs and, you know, and who's going to take that baby into the foster care system? A lot of, you know, you know, and that's what's unfortunate. And I think that's something we should be able to offer women, because there's women who can't, heck, I can't take care of a child right now. You know, I would not be able to take care of a child right now. And I do, you know, there is beliefs that my household I was raised on, you know, obviously there's certain beliefs that are based off of, you know, the Bible, for instance, you know, and that's how a lot of people have their opinions, but it's just an opinion, not this is legal, you know. And if we don't have those resources, then we're just gonna have a shitty foster care system with more kids getting added to it every day and them repeating the cycle, you know. And that's what is unfortunate.
There's like all kinds of factors, right?
Yeah,
it's factors. Yeah,
and it sucks because
there's all kinds of things that are put out there just in society, on society. Oh, you got to think this way, or what if, or this or that, you know. And I think, you know, they call it stigma. You know, you're stigmatizing people. You know, not one time did I ever think, the whole time I was doing this, that negatively about those seeking services. I never, I don't think whatever a person has to do is what a person has to do, and it is legal. My plunge was, it needs to still be safe.
Well, of course.
It still needs to be safe. And we do this, hun, all the time. Yeah. We're passing these laws and we don't have anyone protecting anyone behind it, just like the new psychedelics. It's like marijuana's regulated. Psychedelics aren't.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely get on topic of psychedelics and marijuana and stuff, but about abortions. I'll read Dylan's comment. I can't believe this group of 24 viewers actually thinks asking Deryk, the YouTuber, about abortion like he is in charge. No, man. It's good conversation. Thank you for watching. Subscribe. In all reality, though, I think the newer generation is the pretty big consensus of, if it's a girl's body, she'll do whatever she wants with it. I think that's how most, I would say like 30-year-old and younger are kind of living their life. Would you guys agree? Peanut gallery over here.
And that's where it comes with evolving. We're constantly having, our generation has our way of living and how we're going to continue to live and teach our younger people.
Modern ideas for modern people.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were saying, in the 1960s or whatever, when it was easier, maybe because women didn't have that much freedom to make those choices, when now they don't have to have someone go with them. They could terminate the pregnancy on their own, and it's their choice, which is in the end the thing that has to happen, because we're all individuals.
Yeah, back in the 1960s when they did Roe versus Wade too, they never had the ultrasound. My boy's 38 years old. Mm-hmm. I never had an ultrasound. They weren't back then. And you had to have like a special need, or the doctor had to have a serious concern in order to get an ultrasound. So I never heard my baby's heartbeats, that whole thing that you see on the ultrasound machine. And then when he was 18 years old, I conceived, and I was going to have another child, and and this was like, he's 18 years later, and still, this is the first time I ever had an ultrasound. And I went all the way into about my 4th month, and then I had a miscarriage. Oh. But I saw a whole different thing to something on a screen. I saw life. I felt life. And so for my own personal, and what I would hope for my girls, all in my family, that, we could offer the support. Because I've just seen both sides of the coin, and so that's just what I believe. And if you believe something different, I'm not hating you for it. Would I like you to see it my way? Sure. Would you like me to see it your way? Sure. But it's just the choices that we make.
Mm-hmm.
And
what about in rape?
Rape is, if you go, and I'm going to, be honest with you, not everybody reports it and goes to the doctor, but in every rape kit is a morning after pill. So it's when they use that as a reason, it's not, the statistics aren't there to support it. And so, again, I think we should have regulated services if it's going to be legal. And was my entire point.
I think that's a good point.
And Mark Lee Dixon was a person that showed me how to shut it down legally, even though it got tabled. And it was an opportunity for me to learn something more, because I worked with the top lawyers in the nation. and they were they were to experience such great legal minds was flabbergasting to me. And not only that, to have the opportunity to use them in this situation, or utilize their services in this situation. And, they tried to cut my attorneys out. And the American Center for Law and Justice, one of the biggest legal organizations in the country, flew into Pueblo, got in front of city council and the mayor and said, if you're going to practice viewpoint discrimination under the First Amendment, you're stepping on their First Amendment rights. And then they had to let my attorneys speak. So to show people the process and not to back down just because somebody's trying to, silence you, right there in itself. I'm not showing people that I'm better, bigger, badder. I'm showing, guess what? A person just like you, just like me, you and me, we're regular everyday people. We could stand and we could take a stance. And whether we're knocked down or not doesn't mean that we're going to give up. And you can do it civilly without having to, burn down neighborhoods and break windows and, destroy things. You don't have to destroy anything. You can all utilize it. And I had access to it. Everybody in America has. You just have to take what you want, what you need. You have to reach out and take it. And so take those resources and utilize them, especially if you feel like bringing, like I said, keeping one part of the community at bay because they didn't want to see this abortion clinic come to town, and getting the other community to say, hey, we're going to work on the regulation because we deserve better than this. Yeah. If we're going to get abortions, we deserve better than this.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Safe abortions are the best we can hope for. Right. So yeah, good point. You brought up marijuana and psychedelics. What's your thoughts on marijuana?
I have not seen positive things since the legalization of marijuana. And we are not the leaders in the legalization of marijuana. We are truly the guinea pigs because there was nothing for us to go by. Right? There was no examples. We could talk about other countries and this and that, but, we hear a lot of the data. We hear a lot of the things when they're trying to win the legislation. A lot of people say, where's the marijuana money? How it was supposed to go to schools. What people didn't realize is that schools, because they're federally funded, cannot receive marijuana funds. That's why they're giving in scholarships to people. So they say, well, where's, I thought the schools were going to benefit. I didn't know that. I didn't vote for it because I just, I was afraid of where we may end up as a community. And so, and it's kind of been it's kind of showing itself in the tax revenue that we're getting now, so it's the industry's shutting down a little bit, and we're not receiving the revenue that we used to. It's probably gone down over 50%. So we're not getting anything. Like they said, oh, but look at all this money that that you're going to get, and you're going to be able to use it on bettering the city. Is the city better?
More people are employed is the first thing I would say.
Mm-hmm.
More jobs. So the economy would be boosted by people having more disposable income.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have to do more research if it's actually doing good or bad.
Do the research, because that's one of the things people are going to talk to you about. This is what I hear from constituents, from the people. you know. And then I just, this is, we can be on this thing all night. I can go over, and you guys can just be as bored to death because I've seen your shows compared to this show, and you guys are like, "Oh my God, no, Deryk, really? You want to get into politics?"
I'm not bored.
Are you not?
I'm enjoying this conversation.
Okay.
22 people are as well.
Okay, so, crazy thing. Mm-hmm. We just got back from vacation, and I grew up in California. I moved here when I was 24 years old. And so we decided we were going to take a coastal drive. And we had gotten to the top of the coastline, Pacific Coast Highway, and it comes out through the redwoods. You want to take, if you've never experienced it before, put this in your bucket list. Beautiful. We come through the redwoods, and we get onto the main highway. And Jim tells me, "Oh, let's just go up, and we're going to take we can take this mountain pass, and we can go over into the beach. So we'll go through the redwoods, we'll go along the beach, and then we'll come back out." Okay, cool. It's a little snowy. But hey, we're from Colorado, right? And it's like a little drizzly. So we get to this town and we take this drive. And I mean, it's like switchbacks. It's like, and it's a a 2,000 foot drop off the other side. And, you know, there's maybe 3 inches of snow. And then there's the huge redwoods canopying the road. And the snow's getting on the redwoods. So we're like, yeah, maybe we should turn around. No, we'll just go. 30 miles took 3 hours. And it's kind of desolate out there. We get to the coast and there's like houses and stuff, and it's desolate out there. And we come to go out the other side and they say road closed. Well, the only way you could go back is the way we came. And now it's dark. And now it's 6 inches of snow. And now it's like...
You're in a motorcycle?
No.
Oh, okay.
We're in a minivan.
Okay.
Because we got to the airport late that night. They didn't have any rental cars, and they gave us this big old minivan. And I thank God for that minivan because, you know, and I tell Jim... I have to drive. You cannot sedate me enough to keep me from losing my mind. I have to drive, you know. So I'm driving, and you could hear the trees cracking. So they're falling, like branches are falling, and this is like a canopy of trees, and it's like desolate out there, right? I'm telling you that there was nothing we could see, and this is going to get real interesting for you. So, you know, a couple trees fall. We happen to come across this guy. He's got this big old chainsaw. He chainsaws up the trees. We get out. Finally, we get back out onto the main highway. And we say, okay, we're going down into San Francisco. So we head down the highway and we get to this roadblock because now the redwoods have fallen across the highway, tore down power lines. And I don't know, redwoods are huge. They're huge. They're bigger than any tree you see up here in the forest. They're huge. And we're in this town, and then we have to spend the night there because there's no hotel rooms. It's a small town. And I'm going to tell you why I'm glad there wasn't any hotel rooms.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, what the hell is going on?
You're going to be done by 8:30. I'm sorry.
Can you guys wait outside for like 20 more minutes? You can turn the light on. This is... It's like 10 minutes.
And then, anyways, we got stuck there. The next day, the highway was closed down for 2.5 days. But I called my brother, and I said, we're stuck up here. And he goes, you know you're in Humboldt County, right? And I go, yeah. And he goes, you need to watch Murder Mountain. Mm-hmm. that's exactly where we were. The little town that we got stuck in the documentary of Murder Mountain, which is 6 episodes. I don't know if you've ever watched it. Have you watched
I've seen
it?
parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm familiar.
You know, those hotels are used to where those in the days of illegal marijuana, that's where they did all the transport. They come there, the farmers would come in, they'd load the hotel room, they'd come in, they'd weigh it, they'd turn around, they'd sell it to the dealers, and the dealers would go off. Where we were stuck up by the ocean line, I mean, that's where a lot of the murders were happening, and they were happening because of the trimmers. So if you've watched it before, you know what I mean by the trimmer. People would come to trim, and then they would never return back out into society. Okay? They're broke because they legalized marijuana now. And between the licensing and the fees and everything, those farmers are going out of business. And the marijuana industry isn't as lucrative for them as they have been. But see, that experience took me into my research. And I'm noticing that trend here. I'm noticing that we're losing businesses left and right all the time.
Because of marijuana?
The marijuana places are closing down.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the lack of business.
Yeah.
So it almost worked as a fad. The problem is we have fallout from it. The data is in. They're talking about the psychosis that the high concentrates bring. And then I start to meet groups and families and children that are recovering from psychosis by not using anymore. And I've met parents who's lost their children because they've either killed themselves, and that sometimes they try to kill the family.
They got too high on marijuana and killed themselves?
This is the data. And if you talk to anyone within the health industry, they're not denying it. Emergency room doctors, school nurses. It is one of the only pieces of legislation that they're actually kind of agree on up at the Capitol, even though they haven't reduced the THC levels, at least, because you have members. Drugs don't discriminate, right? So you have members of our legislation whose children are suffering from it. And so there's just a lot of data. And where does that research take us? And does it affect the things that we're experiencing today? And, I'm saying, we agreed to legalize it because we were going to receive all this tax revenue that was going to offset taxes from the people having to pay. Where's the money? I want my money because it has brought negative results to my community. And so,
yeah.
But yet it's legal, and you don't see me. I'm not criticizing you. I'm not judging you. We're all going to make our choices. Everybody in life has the freedom to make their own choices.
This is why medicinal market got rocked. Limits because some kid overdosed on dabs. TTL. Anyway. Huh.
So, I'm not, like I said, I'm not criticizing you guys or criticizing anybody who uses it. It's legal. Am I going to find the things that, is there effects on our community, and do we have to not be in denial that it is negatively affecting our community? And that all comes through the research and the data. And so, and I'm a little greedy. My thing is my war on drugs. Let's not give up on the war on drugs. And so I say, Pueblo, we cannot deny that a lot of this has to do with drug usage of all types, to include alcohol. Okay? So we have to visit and look at that data and those statistics, because we cannot be in denial, and you can't solve anything until you look at all the facts and deal in the truth.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like I said, I think a lot of the younger generation is willing to change if presented information. If it's so easy just to be in an echo chamber and get the information you want. That's why conversations like this are important. I have a question though before we.
Oh, okay.
We've almost been going for 3 hours. Quite a long time. What is your thoughts on the city council president?
The city, as the role of city council president,
And the person in that role.
Heather
Graham.
Heather Graham. Heather Graham has. I grew very close to Heather in running, and I'm going to say this to you guys, and I don't. Heather is like a daughter to me, not like a child to me, but like a daughter. I mean, she has a mother, but she was very proud of her abilities and her courage to run and her courage to get out there. But we have some different political viewpoints, and I think that's harder on her than it is on me. I wish her the best of luck. And just like, I say, that's great. You have the courage. I admire that you have the courage. I admire that she has the courage to step up and say, I want to do something different.
To run, she's running for mayor as well, right?
Correct. And and here's the other thing, people don't understand is, what president of city council means? It means you have the say over the meeting and how it runs, and that it should be structured, that there's structure to the meeting. It's called Robert's Rules of Order. And it's the policies and procedures of how a meeting runs. And that's all president of city council means. She has no more authority. He or she has no more authority than over any other city council member. But people don't understand that because they hear the word president. And that's why she gets paid. The president gets paid more than a city council member, because they have to do paperwork and they have to get the agenda ready, and but there's no authority that they have over anyone else.
How much money does a city council person make?
$700 a month.
Wow. That's very low.
Yeah. So, I'm not, like I said, I'm not in it for a career or profession. I'm in it to try to do the best for my community that I can.
How much does a mayor make?
The mayor makes about, I think, $155,000 a year.
It's very big difference in that.
And, he says, oh, well, the city manager, this and that and everything else. Come on. Apparently you're talking to people who can't do math. The city manager makes the same amount of salary, but the mayor has an office and an administration that supports him that runs to $1.2 million a year. A city manager's administration runs about $500,000. So, almost a third of that. And that's where it comes in.
Could he, in a perfect world, delegate some of his salary to pay the city council more?
No, I know that your representative here, Mr. Ortega Martinez Vicente, he just asked for a raise for city council members. That's not going to come by very easily, and there's a lot of paperwork to it. And it can be done, but it could be done through a charter, and that means by putting it on the ballot for the people to decide whether we get a raise or not.
Yeah, I think it needs to be done.
Yeah, we can do that. We could put it on the ballot, because in that way, everybody gets paid out equally at the same time. If we just put it in as an ordinance, we have to wait until we win another election. So because there's offset on the election seats, you have 3 seats running 2 year at one election, and then 2 years later, the next election, you have 4 seats running. So there might be people who are getting more than others in that transition. And that's not fair. I mean, at this point, if you're showing up every day. So the best way to do is put it in a vote of the people and let the people decide and then that goes into effect right after they voted in. And then everybody gets to start at the same time.
Well, did you have anything else that you wanted to tell the people while they're listening? We'll have you back. I would love to have you back and go deeper.
Well, just like Deryk, anyone has the opportunity to come forward and run. Does it cost money? Yeah, it does. It costs money. So, hopefully you'll have a concert. But I'm going to tell you something. Don't raise any money until you find out whether there's even going to be a mayor for 2023. Because once you start raising that money and you start spending it, then you got to pay it back if the seat goes away. Yeah. So, like I said, you can always reach out to me if you have any questions, anybody in this community. And I want to thank you, Deryk, for giving me the opportunity because, a lot of people don't know really what the abortion ordinance about or why I brought it forward. It was just like a heated boom, 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 boom. And then the media does their thing. And, I think people really need to understand the importance of, women's health and safety and what that really means, that it's deeper than that.
Yeah. Do you want to tell the people, do you have like somewhere you want them to follow you or check you out somewhere?
I have a podcast I'm getting ready to set up. I have a lot of my own equipment, getting ready to get it set up. And then Deryk stepped in and said, "Oh, I can help you with that." And so
in that exact voice,
maybe look for it in that exact voice. I can help you with that. And then maybe you can post it on your show. When I'm ready, my show on your show.
We'll do a joint thing.
I'm trying a joint show. We can do a joint show.
Exactly. But what was the name of the podcast?
I'm still working on that. Maybe you can help me with that too. I was thinking of Regina in the Know because there's things that I'm, working on and knowing behind the scenes and knowing deeper into. And I'm just sharing it with those, just like I did here tonight with a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's not Gina's a know-it-all. It could be, but it's just Regina in the know. I was thinking about that. Definitely. I could be, one I really liked was the raw nerve. That's where you go right down to the, to the raw nerve.
That's a good one. I like that title. Well, yeah, can't wait for that day. Lala, you want to say anything?
No, thank you for conversating with me. It was nice to be able to put my input in.
You know what, too? I mean, right now I wouldn't mind just coming on with you and just talking about the things because I want to hear. I do want to hear your side. I'm not here to shut you out. And I want to hear your side of it. And it's all food for thought. And so when I'm up there making decisions, I'm hearing perspectives from what my community wants. And so,
yeah,
thanks. It
Great.
was nice meeting you too, Lala.
Nice meeting you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, guys, it's been Street Champs. Got Regina. She's the District 1 City Councilwoman. So check her out. Check out her podcast when it comes out. Street Champs, come get put on. Subscribe right now if you want to learn more about this political race. Street Champs for Mayor, Deryk for Mayor, 2023. When I win, I'm going to keep doing these videos just to keep it completely see-through. I'm tired of not knowing. I just want to be able to feel like we are doing something and know that we're not being lied to or taken advantage of or just something that's, there's $150,000 that I don't know what he's living like. Could be crazy. But anyway, Street Champs. Guys, thanks for watching. Peace.